The fundamental facts are already clear to you. You're aware she was snatched from her own house. You've heard about the letters surfacing. You're familiar with the crypto requests and the time limits. This whole mystery has been on your radar since the jump, tracking every development while hoping for a major breakthrough. For weeks, the discourse regarding those initial extortion messages just hit the same beats. That massive seven-figure ask, those expired ultimatums, federal agents stepping in, and the flood of doubters claiming it was all a hoax. Yet buried within those pair of opening notes, specifically the ones received by media outlets shortly after Nancy vanished, lay a detail never officially disclosed. Federal investigators spotted it immediately upon review. Harvey Levin was also in the loop. Whether these messages were authentic or staged takes on a whole new light once you uncover their hidden contents. Ashley Banfield finally voiced it during an episode of her podcast, Drop Dead Serious. She didn't present it as mere hearsay. Her delivery suggested she had just nailed down a crucial piece of the puzzle, a secret that police had kept under wraps from the very start of the whole ordeal. Today, we are going to piece together the entire narrative. It is not about rehashing the surface-level facts you already grasp. You have the background, but seeing the actual structure of the messages, their timing, and their destinations, the way the Bureau linked them together, the final determination made by the feds, and most importantly, their verbatim text, completely alters your perception of Nancy Guthrie's fate. Nancy Guthrie's case remains a current and open federal probe. Our discussion relies solely on verified journalism and validated official accounts. We will provide documentation for every major point throughout this journey. When Ashley Banfield hit record for episode 65 of her podcast, the investigation was drowning in a sea of data. Over 2 months had passed since Nancy Guthrie disappeared from her residence in the Tucson Hills. What originally began as a search for a missing adult soon turned into a potential abduction case, which eventually spiraled into what appeared to be total disorder. A barrage of messages, various different authors, and conflicting asks. Someone from California was even busted for sending fake texts to the relatives. Here is a close-up on the individual behind that phony extortion letter sent to the family. Fresh digital messages were landing in the TMZ inbox. Conflicting reports were stacking up much too quickly for analysts or the general public to make any real sense of them. Those following the mystery had split into several opposing camps. Certain people felt, right from the start, that those initial letters were legitimate and written by cold, professional criminals. Others watched as one target date after another slipped by without consequence, observing the changing requirements and mounting confusion, witnessing the chaos intensify, eventually deciding that the entire hostage note narrative was a complex con job or a smokescreen meant to hide the real police work. You could practically feel the irritation boiling over in online discussions. The tension was palpable throughout the reporting. Each incoming message or email only served to muddy the waters instead of providing answers. The query that the public wouldn't stop raising. Why isn't someone tracking this or paying up? This sentiment showed how lost people felt regarding the probe's true progress and the authorities' actual knowledge. Take, for example, a local news outlet based in Tucson, which happened to be among the initial recipients of those strange potential ransom notes. It was hit with yet another digital update, a fresh piece of correspondence. Both schools of thought were stumbling over the exact same hurdle. No one possessed the entire puzzle because the complete facts remained hidden from the public, at least not the whole story. A particular element within those first 2 notes was kept secret for over 2 months. This one piece of information completely redefines how you perceive every other clue. Let's break it down into 4 groups. To grasp Banfield's Day 65 bombshell, we first need to chart the messy web of messages that have made this case so confusing. This lack of clarity was entirely by design. It is what happens when real evidence gets buried under a mountain of fake leads. Basically, we are looking at 4 unique types of outreach involved in this probe. They do not share an origin, nor are they all genuine. And if you lump them together, viewing them as one giant pile of data is the exact logical trap that makes people ignore the wrong details. Group 1 consists of the 2 initial paper ransom notes. These arrived at outlets like TMZ and KVO shortly after Nancy went missing. These specific items are our main subject for today's discussion. Federal agents prioritized these from day one, and they form the backbone of Banfield's investigation. The second group involves texts delivered straight to the family, notably to Savannah's sister Annie and Tom Tommaso Lutino, who is Nancy's son-in-law. Investigators managed to track those messages back. A guy from California, Derek Colea, was busted and indicted for blackmail related to those texts. He wasn't the actual abductor. Here are the California federal court drawings of 42-year-old Derek Calcaya. During his first time in front of a judge, he was just a con artist who saw a chance to profit off a famous disappearance. That specific lead was handled by the police and has zero connection to those first ransom letters. Catching him didn't prove whether the initial notes were real or fake. Group 3 involves a string of emails directed to TMZ from an unidentified, relentless source beginning around February 11, 2026. This individual has pinged the outlet repeatedly with stories that don't match up, claiming at times that Nancy is being held in Sonora, Mexico. That's where he claims she's currently located. But he also flipped the script, saying she's deceased and offering to pinpoint the body. Come April 6th, TMZ got 2 more notes from this guy, perfectly timed, either on purpose or by pure luck, with Savannah Guthrie's big return to the Today Show. Those messages asked for 0.5 Bitcoin for the intel sent by our constant pest. Things stalled out. The trail went cold. So we just received an email from a person claiming they found the body and identified the suspect. Hand over 0.5 Bitcoin for the location, but the FBI hasn't verified these messages yet. No cryptocurrency has been sent to the wallet address linked to these specific communications, which typically hints to investigators whether a ransom demand is actually the real deal. Harvey Levin from TMZ felt uneasy about the sender, noting contradictions between their first claims and the April message. The fourth category covers the background noise that always surrounds a major national investigation. Random tips and theories just create noise without providing any real answers. Today, right now, we're focusing purely on those first 2 letters because that's where the actual story truly lives. What happened? 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie vanished without a trace. She was last seen at her Catalina Hills home, located just outside of Tucson, Arizona, January 31st, 2026. Reported missing on February 1st, she drew an immediate response from local police and federal investigators. That move suggested right away that authorities were looking at this as a clear kidnapping case. She hadn't just left. Evidence found at the property definitely supported that specific theory. There were traces of blood discovered on Nancy's front porch. A doorbell camera captured a masked man at her door the night she went missing. The sheriff and the feds weren't playing around. They were convinced she'd been taken. A massive search launched. Then, the ransom letters started arriving. TMZ was among the very first to break the news about the initial note in early February. When they shared the details, their reporting was cautious but very clear. The kidnapper demanded a massive payout, millions of dollars in Bitcoin. There was a legitimate Bitcoin address provided. Sources confirmed the wallet existed, and the note included a firm deadline. It also included a very specific threat. More importantly, the note shared private details about Nancy that hadn't been leaked. They mentioned what she was wearing when she vanished and described specific damage found in or around her property. That detail is crucial. In a kidnapping case, the key to telling a real ransom note from a fake is usually information that only the kidnappers would have. Info that wasn't in the news, on social media, or found in public reports. When letters include accurate, private details about a victim, investigators start taking it much more seriously. It's no guarantee, but it's significant. And the original TMZ letter had that. It was sent to 3 different outlets simultaneously. TMZ, KVOA, and KGUN all received the exact same message. TMZ immediately handed their copy over to the feds. That started a very close working relationship between the outlet and federal agents. A second letter came later, but it only went to KGUN, not the others. And both notes featured the same specific Bitcoin address. A pair of notes, dual methods for delivery originating from one point. That is the crypto trail. Whenever a digital currency probe kicks off, especially during abductions where Bitcoin serves as the ransom tool, that specific account ID acts as the primary digital tie-down for federal agents. These crypto keys are forged through complex math, making every single one distinct. If two distinct messages go out to various people at different moments, but link back to the same wallet, it is a dead giveaway that both documents originated from a single sender. This is not just a guess or some theory. It is the fundamental reality of the blockchain's design. Banfield laid it all out clearly during the recording. Both sets of mail shared the exact same digital code. The initial message hit 3 different newsrooms at once, a massive blast. It is exactly how you act when you need to ensure your words grab someone's attention. The next note was sent exclusively to KGN. Much more focused, a precision strike. A fresh tactic, yet both tied to one account, belonging to the same individual or outfit. This crypto link does more than just bridge the 2 messages. It handed the Bureau a solid lead to start digging. Once the feds get their hands on a note containing a wallet ID, they start shadowing that account. They dive deep into the ledger, an unchangeable, open-source log documenting every single move ever made. Agents can scrutinize the account's past, observing the cash flow and behavioral habits that might reveal the owner's identity. Investigators try to hunt down exactly where that wallet was first created. This takes high-level tech wizardry, and the Bureau has entire teams focused solely on these digital currency puzzles. Take a look at Harvey Levin's comments regarding the outcome of that manhunt. He put these statements out there for everyone to hear. Law enforcement exhausted every possible trick in the book to find whoever sent those first notes. They tracked the crypto account and tore apart every bit of metadata in the messages. Despite chasing every single lead, they hit a total dead end. My tech specialists spent hours upon hours grinding away alongside our IT department, yet they found nothing and could not crack the case. And to this day, the author remains a mystery. When it comes to hunting down digital assets, failing to find a lead is rare when the feds are actually trying. It suggests the culprit knows their way around online privacy tools, understanding how to mask a wallet to keep it from being unmasked, and how to leak info to the press without leaving a crumb for investigators to follow back to them. Harvey Levin talked about this part of the time. Investigation is something close to a flawless heist, where online, messaging, and crypto merged into a path that even the Bureau's top experts cannot trace back to the start. They finished with absolutely nothing, while those notes remain out there and the culprits stay hidden in the shadows. The connection between TMZ and the Bureau. We need to look closely at how TMZ and the feds interacted, as that context changes how you interpret Harvey Levin's take on their findings. Harvey Levin is not your typical tipster or informant. He is the guy who started TMZ, a major player in the nation's media landscape, pulling in massive numbers, and he's been right in the thick of it since that very first envelope hit their office. This isn't some sketchy rumor he heard through the grapevine from a shady source. He's breaking down the facts straight from the mouths of high-level federal agents who've been collaborating with the site since day one of this mess. Banfield called their partnership seamless, and it definitely wasn't a hands-off deal. The feds weren't just sitting back waiting for updates after things went down. They stayed plugged into the info loop as everything unfolded live. The moment that first note arrived, it was in the hands of the Bureau. As more messages trickled in, they kept that same fast track going. The agency stayed in constant touch, grabbing every scrap of evidence as it surfaced, offering their expert takes while looping the reporters back in, essentially using the newsroom as a bridge to the abductors. So when Levin claims the feds view those first 2 notes as the real deal, he isn't just winging it. That was the official stance shared through a partnership that both parties have openly admitted to. The department hasn't put out a press release yet, verifying that the mail was legit. Standard procedure usually keeps them quiet during an open probe, but their actions and the way they fed info to the outlet tell the whole story. Those first 2 notes were definitely from the captors, which is exactly where Savannah stands. On April 6, 2026, Savannah Guthrie stepped back onto the Today Show set for her first broadcast since her mom vanished. She'd been gone from a post for over 2 months, walking away from a high-profile TV gig to handle a nightmare that nobody should have to endure under the spotlight. Her coming back was a headline in its own right, splashed across every network. She opened up about her loved ones. She showed her gratitude for the massive outpouring of love from the audience. Then, showing incredible poise, she shifted focus. She spoke candidly about the demands while the whole country was tuned in. She confirmed the suspicions that most folks watching the story had already formed, stating that most of the chatter regarding her mother's case was fake, including those family texts, all the distractions and the people trying to cash in. She made it plain that just because there were lies, it didn't mean everything was a hoax. However, she drew a very specific line. She mentioned that the 2 specific letters they actually engaged with felt authentic to her. That specific statement carries a lot of weight for the investigation. She wasn't referring to those April 6th emails or any messages from Derek Carr. Her focus was entirely on the initial pair of letters that the family acknowledged and acted upon. The ones asking for crypto. The ones with the ticking clocks that the feds got their hands on immediately via TMZ. And she stood firm in her belief that those were legitimate. Her choice of words was incredibly calculated and cautious. She isn't wearing a badge and doesn't see all the classified evidence the cops have. She doesn't carry the official weight of the Bureau, yet she's the child of a missing 84-year-old. As the primary contact, her family followed instructions to engage with those demands. Regardless of the specific contents, even with secrets kept from the public, Savannah knew enough to tell the country that those initial 2 notes were genuine. Coming from the person with the most at stake, that admission carries immense weight. Looking at Ashley Banfield and that Day 65 broadcast. Banfield has spent 36 years working in the news industry. She avoids treating ongoing cases like a guessing game. Her show's reputation rests on her commitment to drawing clear lines between proven facts and mere accusations, or what informants claim versus what evidence shows. It's about separating the wheat from the chaff. When she begins a story by citing new intel from TMZ that was previously unknown, that choice of words is both intentional and significant. That's how she signals to her viewers that a fresh revelation is coming. I've come across something from TMZ that was news to me. This was vetted information from a trusted source, not some random gossip from an unnamed caller. The promo for that 65th episode promised a shocking update regarding those first kidnapping letters. That wasn't just sensational marketing fluff. It mirrored the gravity of the facts she was preparing to broadcast. Around April 5th or 6th, 2026, followers of the mystery were drowning in conflicting data, like those fake text messages, the arrest of Derek Carr, and the TMZ emails hitting that same afternoon. Savannah had returned to her job. Wild rumors swirled about Nancy's fate south of the border. Navigating the facts of the investigation had become nearly impossible. Banfield intended to slice through the chaos during that broadcast, focusing back on the primary evidence to reveal a secret previously kept from the public. The scoop came via TMZ. Harvey Levin, holding back info due to his ties with the FBI, finally passed it her way, and she delivered it straight, with the unwavering confidence of a reporter who has the receipts. Between the hoaxes and the distractions, the doubt surrounding those ransom demands didn't just happen by accident. It was partly fueled by Derek Collia's arrest, which gave the public an easy, if wrong, excuse to ignore the whole thing. Once a guy from California got busted for trying to shake down the family with bogus texts, everyone assumed he was behind every single message. People figured, we found the con artist. He's in handcuffs, so the letters must be fake too. But that theory falls apart when you realize Collia only handled the texts, acting alone, using a totally different method that had zero links to the physical letters mailed to Tucson newsrooms. The Bureau kept those leads separate because they weren't the same thing. Closing one door in an investigation doesn't mean the whole house is clean. That persistent emailer just added another layer of static to the story. A persistent individual has been hounding TMZ since February 11th, begging for crypto while constantly shifting their narrative. First, they claimed Nancy was alive and well down in Mexico. Then they pivoted to saying she's dead, offering her burial site for 0.5 Bitcoin, before finally losing it on federal agents for treating them like a common fraudster. And this person has been incredibly dogged, fully aware that if this is a con, it's a major federal offense. It is the kind of behavior that naturally triggers doubt. This same kind of drama has surfaced before in other high-stakes missing persons investigations. You often see people trying to wedge themselves into a case just to chase a payday. Some are just vultures looking for an opening. Others have tiny scraps of real info they're looking to trade for cash. Then you have the more unstable characters whose true intentions are a complete mystery. What makes the messages from April 6th so deeply troubling is the specific timing. They hit the TMZ offices on the very day Savannah Guthrie made her comeback on the Today Show. Former federal agent Jennifer Coffin Daffer told Newsweek directly that she didn't view that timing as any kind of accident. She believed the notes were dropped on purpose to maximize the spotlight and inflict more pain on the family. Whether that assessment holds water or not, the timing triggered a media frenzy that made it incredibly tough for the public to distinguish between vital clues and manufactured chaos. Through the whole ordeal, the Kalia bust, those April 6th emails, the lies and the wild assertions, the first two letters just sat quietly in the official file, having been vetted by the feds months ago with a definitive verdict and a secret detail that remained completely off the radar. Here is what the world knew then. This is a precise breakdown of everything officially known about those first two letters before the Day 65 podcast aired. Everything that hit the news cycle, every scrap of info the audience had to go on. The public was aware of the digital currency demands. TMZ confirmed the initial note, asked for a huge sum of crypto worth millions of dollars to be sent to a specific digital address. That specific wallet was confirmed to be a real, functioning account. People knew there was a ticking clock attached to those demands. The letter laid out a strict window for when the payoff had to happen. The public knew there was a do-or-die threat, a grim ultimatum for what would happen if the demands weren't met. That part of the story had been teased in the news, but the full details were hidden. It was common knowledge that the note had private details about Nancy that hadn't been leaked. Things like her outfit that day, or a specific broken item at her residence. These clues were highlighted as evidence that the letters might actually be the real deal. Everyone knew TMZ had handed the correspondence over to the feds and was assisting the investigation. The public knew a second letter had been delivered specifically to KGUN. People knew the Bureau was all in, treating the whole situation as a high-priority kidnapping. That was the total sum of what had been, officially, verified regarding the text and the context of those first two letters. It represented a significant and serious collection of facts. But it wasn't the whole story, because what was missing from that public record, what hadn't been confirmed by any news team on any true crime podcast, no official report ever mentioned that those documents contained a blunt promise to end Nancy Guthrie's life if the cash wasn't paid. That detail existed from day one. It was right there in the envelopes when they arrived. Federal agents saw it. The media desk at TMZ held it. For over 2 months, the public was kept in the dark until Banfield broke the silence. The big reveal. Ashley Banfield crafted the scene with precision. She addressed the lingering uncertainty. She brought the viewers up to speed, discussing those first two notes, the newsrooms that got them, and the specific crypto link tying them together. She was laying the foundation brick by brick before dropping the bombshell. The big story centers on those initial messages sent to TMZ and local Tucson stations. 2 separate letters existed. They vowed to murder Nancy Guthrie. This specific detail had never reached the public until that moment. They promised to take Nancy Guthrie's life. We were hearing this for the first time. Think about that. Those first 2 demands, which federal agents and Savannah both view as genuine, the ones packed with private info about Nancy Guthrie that was never leaked, the ones featuring that confirmed Bitcoin wallet, the ones with a hard cutoff time, the ones federal authorities got from TMZ immediately and followed as far as they could. Those documents stated in no uncertain terms that Nancy Guthrie would die if they didn't get their money. This wasn't some subtle hint you had to guess at between the lines. It wasn't a vague "or else" left for the public to figure out. It was a literal death threat, printed and mailed to 3 news outlets in the very city she vanished from. And through more than 8 weeks of frantic national headlines across every true crime show, internet board, and video essay, this crucial piece of evidence remained a secret. Banfield didn't hide where she got the scoop. She got the inside track from the team at TMZ. Harvey Levin passed it along. Up until then, it wasn't part of the official story. This shifts the entire perspective on the investigation. A generic warning in a kidnap note is open to interpretation. It could mean anything. but a written vow to execute a specific person is crystal clear. It is a cold statement of purpose from individuals claiming to hold an 84-year-old woman captive. If the feds are right about them being real, the kidnappers weren't being coy about their plans. They put it in ink and sent it to the press. Yet for 2 months and change, the world didn't know. And here is why it stayed quiet. There are valid, strategic justifications for keeping certain cards close to the chest during a kidnapping case. This isn't just random secrecy, it is standard procedure. Detectives often ask reporters to sit on certain facts while a case is hot to keep the investigation from being compromised, to keep suspects from realizing how much the police actually know, and to hold back details that can prove if future tips are real or just people chasing clout. That final point is the key here. If both original notes threaten Nancy Guthrie's life and the world didn't know it, then any new message making that same threat, without just repeating what is on the news, would be a major red flag. Any future note that missed that detail could be dismissed as a hoax. Keeping that secret actually helps verify what is real. A screen, a tactical weapon, as much as a fact. It is likely they were just trying to keep their options open for talking or negotiating without all that crazy public heat that hits when a death threat against a senior becomes national news. When you are trying to find a victim and save their life, the very last thing cops want is for a clear threat to spark a panic that changes how the suspects act. Well, hiding it is totally fair, even if hearing it now is a shock. Banfield's move on day 65 was for the public and timed perfectly. We have reached the point where the first notes have been fully vetted. The FBI tried and failed to track their origin. It is still an open case with no one in custody, and everyone following this deserves to know how heavy those letters really were. She proved what she had found. She cited it well and framed it with care. Then she let the intel do exactly what it is meant to do: close a gap that was messing with what people thought was happening. The FBI hit nothing. Here is where Banfield's reporting lines up into something you cannot ignore. On one side, you have what was actually in those letters. They promised to kill Nancy Guthrie. They knew personal secrets. They used crypto. They set a clock. They hit 3 different newsrooms in Tucson. One went to KGUN. The feds checked them and said they were legit, that they came from the people who actually have her, not some random trolls or people looking for attention. On the other side, you have the total failure to find the sender. Harvey Levin admitted it openly. The FBI used every single tool in their kit. The Bitcoin, the data, every tiny digital thread in those notes. They chased them all and came up empty. Look at both facts together, because that is the real story here. The feds believe the real kidnappers wrote those 2 letters. In those notes, they said they were going to kill her. Yet even the FBI, with all its power, cannot find the author. The people behind this knew exactly how to use crypto, how to stay dark, and how to use the media without leaving a single trace that even a massive federal probe could find. Harvey Levin described this part of the case in grim terms. He said this looks like what you would call a perfect crime. The mix of digital chat and crypto has built a wall the feds cannot see through. Essentially, this suggests the individuals threatening an 84-year-old woman's life and mailing warnings to news organizations twice, outlining clear goals and dark motives through written text while showing they knew intimate facts about their target. Those culprits remain anonymous. They might be roaming free even now. Looking back at Banfield's Day 65 broadcast, looking into those initial notes has led to 0 leads, 0 cuffs, and 0 names. Lingering mysteries. Each twist in the narrative just drags those same haunting, unsolved issues back into focus. This Banfield scoop honestly adds a whole new layer to the existing puzzles. Why target newsrooms with the first notes instead of the relatives? Typically, in abduction scenarios, kidnappers send ransom notes directly to relatives, applying heat with photos or audio to prove they aren't bluffing. Mailing those threats to outlets like TMZ, KVOA, and KGUN feels like a cold, calculated move to weaponize the spotlight. Maybe they thought the media's noise would force them, family's hand. Or perhaps they just wanted the thrill of public dominance. It's hard to say. Truth is, we're guessing, but it's bizarre and highlights the twisted logic of the perpetrators, assuming federal profilers are right. What made them switch to just KGUN for the second note. They went from a three-way blast to zeroing in on one local news desk. Was that a pivot? Because the initial media storm didn't yield the payout they wanted. Did something about KGUN's specific reporting catch their eye? Were they trying to build a more private, controlled bridge for communication? This shift was intentional. The crypto wallet matches the first letter, but the motive behind the change is still a mystery. Once those cutoff times passed, what happened? Both messages had strict time limits. Not a single cent of Bitcoin hit that wallet, and shortly after, that line of contact went dead. We have to wonder what the captors did after that silence, and what it means for Nancy's safety, given how brutal those original threats were. This hits that gut-wrenching spot where what we've learned crashes into what we still don't know. Could Nancy Guthrie still be out there? Every piece of this puzzle eventually leads back to that one question. By the time Banfield's story aired, no word on her status was confirmed, and no remains have been found by the Bureau. There isn't a single person of interest or a formal charge linked to the actual snatching. Detectives are still on the job. Her loved ones aren't giving up, keeping the story in the public eye while offering a $1 million reward for her safe return. There is another bounty exceeding $200,000, which includes $100,000 straight from federal funds, still on the table for tips about where she is or who took her. That person from April 6th who's been hitting up TMZ since February claiming Nancy is gone? They haven't shown a single shred of proof to back that up. Plus, that same individual once swore she was alive and well down in Mexico. Their stories don't line up, and since no digital currency ever moved to their wallets, police see it as a major red flag. Her relatives have kept completely silent regarding her current whereabouts. Authorities haven't released any formal updates about her situation. This investigation remains wide open. Please reach out to federal agents if you know anything. Call 1-800-2255-324 or visit their site. Local deputies verify that every lead goes straight to the FBI task force. A pair of messages landed at 3 different news stations in Tucson, which federal experts verified as genuine correspondence from the abductors, tied together via an anonymous crypto wallet that investigators simply cannot link to a person. Both notes shared secret facts about the elderly, 84-year-old victim, and a chilling vow to end her life that stayed hidden. It stayed buried until Ashley Banfield broke the news on her show. That terrifying ultimatum is only the tip of the iceberg. This saga is far from finished, but these details bring everything into focus. This wasn't some hazy, vague negotiation where things might go south if demands weren't met. These were cold-blooded letters threatening Nancy Guthrie, sent right to the press, by calculating individuals who managed to stay off the federal radar. That is the grim truth found inside those original envelopes. And Banfield is the one who finally exposed it all. We are discussing an ongoing federal search for a kidnapped woman. Everything mentioned is pulled from documented media reports like the Banfield podcast and major news outlets. We aren't making any claims about who is responsible, nor are we stating exactly where the police stand right now. The analysis of those ransom notes, as we've laid out here, comes from journalistic leaks and is not an official Bureau statement. Local law enforcement hasn't verified every claim mentioned in this clip. If you hold any clues about Nancy Guthrie's abduction, please contact the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI or visit tips.fbi.gov.